Alright, I'm just going to talk very briefly about arrays. Most of you probably know about this already, but I'm just going to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So I have this point, and I have two arrays. So here I'm starting to have a string array. I write out into names, and I have one other string array that is written out to work. So if we look at the spreadsheet, we have these two brackets, which is showing that this is an empty array. The whole point with an array is that you can just put in a list of things. Instead of just having one names, you can have several names. So if I'm going in here, I can do an insert here for name, and I'm do a constant, and a string here, string, and the first name will be Dirk, and I'm going to connect that to this value here. And now you can see you have a Dirk here in names. And if you see in this insert, you have the array and you also have an index. This index tells you where in the array you're putting your string. And if I change it to 1, you can see that I get an empty post on position 0 and the name is now at position 1. Let's copy this insert node and add a second item. So let's get this guy like so. And instead of Dirk, the next name will be Who. And now I'm putting both in position 0. So first there was Dirk, but the next time I'm inserting it in position 0 again, then that will move Dirk and put Who in at position 0. If I would set it to 1, Dirk would remain 0 and Who would put at position 1. And like before, if I would set it to 2, it would make this empty string and then put Who at base 3. A useful thing that you can do with arrays is to let them relate to each other by having their item in the same order. To exemplify this, I'll have the first array with the names and then this other array that will contain their job titles. I'm gonna copy this and then I'm gonna put that guy in here and here is work. For the first Who there, Who, he worked as a doctor. So you can see on position 0 is Who and he's a doctor. And let's do the next one. So now I know the Dirk is at position 1. So I'm not going to use this one anymore. I'm going to have a new string here. And he would be a detective. Detective. But now I inserted the second job in the wrong place. So let's change that. So because these guys are synced, I can do other things with this now. So if I do an attribute VOP, I can do a for each here. So for each, if I put in an array, of course that will loop through the whole array. So if I do a bind, and then do a string array, and then take names, and connect that into here, and then I can do an if block, and I can do a compare, and I can do a constant, and a string that will take the current iteration. If that is equal to Dirk, then this is true. And if this is true, then I can also use the other array. So if I'm copying that in and I take work, if this is true, I want to write out, I'm also going to have a get element. With a get element, I can pick an item from an array at a specified position. And as the array are in the same order, I can therefore use the index from the for each loop. This means that for every name that this for each loops through, this get element will pick up the work title from the other array. To save out only the value for Dirk, I'm going to put in a bind export inside this if block, so it will only export the value when Dirk is true. And if we do a spreadsheet on this one, we can now see that attribute found is set to detective, and found was of course the attribute that I was exporting in the if block. This is an important concept to understand when working with agents, as they have a lot of array attributes that correlate with each other. And you can do very cool things with them if you fully understand how they work.